Hello, everybody out there. Shaquita Graham here, founder of Black Tech Lab, and also I will be your host in June 2018 for the Nubian Essence Luxury Retreat. You can find out more about that at nubianessenceluxuryretreat.com. And I have with me today a fireball. For those who don't know, first of all, I like to call her Dr. Shonna because she's getting her doctorate. She'll be done in May, but she's an awesome, uh, what can I call her? She's just an asset to our community. She is a licensed clinical social worker specializing in couples therapy in New Jersey. So I want to say hello to Miss Dr. Shonna. And how are you doing today, Dr. Shonna?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited about today's interview. So looking forward to it.
All right. So guys, I want to get into our topic a little bit, and then I'm going to have Dr. Shonna just explain to you, how her services relates to this, what we're going to be talking about. There's so much going on with Omarosa right now. Like the latest thing is that she might make $10 million on a book deal, speaking about her experience in the White House. And one of the things that she said that caused, a lot of attention is that she was very lonely working in the White House. And of course, people are saying that her attitude was so horrible in the White House. And we've also seen that projected on the show, The Apprentice, that, she was actually escorted off White House grounds is what people are saying. She disputes that. She says that she actually resigned. And Dr. Shonna, before we talk about how Omarosa's, her portrayal on television and the ideology behind how she acted and things like that contributes to the myth about Black women and bad attitudes. Can you tell us what are your thoughts about Omarosa and the things that are going on with her?
Listen, I only know what is out there on social media. I do not know the lady, but I will tell you this. From in the back of the days when she was on The Apprentice, I think was Donald Trump's show.
Yeah.
Right? When she was on that show, I myself could not watch the show with her on it because there's something about her aura. It's something about her energy that for me, it has like a negative energy attached to it. And so what I mean by that, oftentimes she's like on level 10. And sometimes you just got to learn how to bring things down. Sometimes you got to be even keel. And when I see people who are constantly operating at a level 10, that just lets me know that they have a hard time regulating and managing their emotions. And I see that a lot in Omarosa from what is portrayed about her on TV. I want to make that very clear.
Right, and that's really interesting that you say that, like that her emotions were kind of just, if in my words, I'm hearing a little all over the place, a little high strung, because as a Black woman working in corporate America, myself, working in a field that's male dominated, that doesn't have very many Black people, that idea kind of resonates to me in not just her portrayal, but also a stereotype that's commonly projected on Black women in general. But at the same time, in the climate that we live in, I think that a lot of people can be high strung. They can be deal with emotional instability. So that's what I want to really address really quick. And let me just pause for a second and let everybody know that this video is a part of a Nubian Essence business and wellness series that I'm going to be doing, because I think that in our community, we need to focus more on wellness this year. We need to focus more on resolution, not just New Year's resolution, but resolution to issues that we face. At some point, it's great to know what the problem is. It's great to talk about the problem, but at some point we have to bring resolution. And that's what this series of conversations is about with Dr. Shonna and other people. I also want you guys to know that Dr. Shonna has an awesome book here, Transforming Pain into Possibility, a practical approach. That is what we need to do. We have a lot of pain in our community. We do need to transform that into possibility. We need to take practical approaches. So that's why I'm talking to her right now about this. So, again, Dr. Shonna, can you talk a little bit just about your practice and how you see emotional instability in women play out and just in our community in general, please?
Well, before I say that, I want to ask you a question. When you say the emotions are high strung, can you break that down for me so I won't assume I know what you're talking about?
Absolutely. I love the doctor in you. See, you want to be very clear. You're analyzing right. I love it. So, what I mean by that is a lot of times in our community, we see people acting in certain ways, or we see ourselves acting and as a result of our acting, living in certain ways, and we don't understand what that's about. And so, when I say acting, and I mean addressing that high strung statement that I made, meaning that your emotions are all over the place, or your emotions, you don't have control over them as much as you want to have control, or you are exhibiting emotions that have unintended consequences to other people. You're wondering why people are seeing you a certain way, but you are being high strung because you're not tuned in to how your emotions and your actions are affecting other people, whether it's your husband, your boyfriend, people on your job, your children, or even yourself. You don't understand that you're depressed right now or you're anxious right now. You can't put a name to the feeling, and therefore you can't address it.
Excellent. So I'm glad that you did break that down, because in my world, what we would call that is when someone becomes hyper aroused. And when they become hyper aroused, we refer to that as being emotionally dysregulated. So I wanted to first understand what you were saying so that I can put it into perspective, because I don't want to be talking a different language than you. So in my practice, what I often see, there's two types of, well, it's actually three, but for the sake of this video, there are two types of emotion I would theoretically see in my practice. So one might be someone who is hyper aroused. That is like, we all have a threshold. So you see how we're like even on this screen, and above us is black and beneath us is black. So we always want to be in the middle, right where you see your face and where you see my face. We always want to be in the middle. We might go a little bit up, a little bit down, but as long as we stay within that window of tolerance, we're good emotionally. Is when we go too low, it's called hypoarousal. So that's another dysregulation. But that's when you start seeing depression, you start seeing withdrawal, you start seeing people, they start operating like a silent treatment, as some would say. They start to shut down, lethargic, you name it. That's when they're in the hypo stage. People like Omarosa, for example, since we're talking about her, they are usually operating in a higher window, which is called the hyperarousal. So the top part of our black. That's when you are not able to control yourself. That's the anger. That's the anxiety. That's the fear. That's the acting out. That's the yelling. That's the screaming. That's the cussing people out. That's the I'll get it in, I'll fight anybody type of attitude. So when people come to me in my practice, they're either hypo-aroused, meaning they're withdrawal, they're checked out, they don't feel their emotions much, because I have to do a lot of somatic work so they can tap back into their emotions, or they're so hyper that they present as though they're the angry black woman, right? She got a lot of attitude, a lot of mouth. Oh, that's why she's single. That's when you're up there in that level. And oftentimes what happens, it's gonna be a lot of things that contribute to that. It can be living in a traumatic neighborhood. And when I say traumatic neighborhood, filled with crime, right? High poverty rates, children being born out of wedlock, just all of that, fighting, drinking, smoking, drugs, you name it, all of that stuff can add on to your stress, which will cause you to operate on high alert all the time. Or you can have stuff that's passed down to you generationally, or what we call the intergenerational transmission of trauma. So it's passed down to you. Maybe you never saw your mother or your father or whomever raised you learn to resolve conflict in a calm state. Maybe everything was always turned up on level 10. So if you're living on level 10 and you're always seeing your mom, your sisters, your brother, your uncle, your auntie, grandma, everybody on level 10, how do you think you're going to act? How do you think you're going to respond when you're faced with conflict? And then you can put on all the other layers that goes on in society, from white supremacy to oppression to low pay raise, you name it. All of that has people in an alert state. And then don't even talk about media. The desensitization to what we see on TV also contributes to that as well. So in my practice, when I do get people coming to me, and by the way, I specialize in relationships, specifically couples therapy, but when I do have people coming to me, they're already on a level 10. And what I learn to do is what I teach them is to learn how to make sense of what's happening in their emotions and learn how to contain it in that window of tolerance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to dig deeper into that. You did a wonderful exercise about that. And you also said a buzzword for me right now, which is media. And that's kind of why I'm bringing Omarosa. She's not the only one. You know, we have all of these real basketball wives and housewives and I don't know, medicine women. I don't know, all of these different
married to medicine.
Supposed to be real Black women. You know what I'm saying? And they, a lot of times, the way that they pick out the characters that they want to pronounce and all of this, they feed into this narrative about how we should even express our emotions. What is okay? What is level 10 and what is level 0 and where we should be, especially our young women. So I want to delve into that. But before I do, I just want to talk to people for a second about this event. I want to make sure that you guys understand that the Nubian Essence Luxury Retreat is one of those things that really came out of the heart of me seeing, and also other people at Your Black World seeing the trauma that Black women experience. And it's not really about just singling out Black women, but we are caretakers in our community. And when we have trauma, that is one of the easiest ways to pass it down throughout the entire Black community. So when we have—
Wait, Shaquita, when we have untreated trauma.
Yes, untreated trauma, that's right. When we have untreated trauma, that's one of the fastest ways to pass down just negativity in so many ways throughout our community. So we want to have experts like Dr. Shonna, business experts, and she's also a business expert. She has a wonderful practice I mix up psychologist and social worker and all of those things, but she has a wonderful practice for things like that. And then we have so many other things related to the need for counsel in our community. And that's one of the things that I really want us to address with this type of retreat. We have 3 sections. One is going to be business, one is wellness, and the other one is what I call RR&R, refresh, reset, and relax. And
I love it.
Yeah, part of that reset thing is speaking to experts like Dr. Shonna and learning how to deal with things. And I want to go into how Dr. Shonna talks about dealing with emotions to keep you in that even space. Because even if we're not really exhibiting this on our job, as many people try to project onto us, or we are exhibiting the lower emotion or the lower, you called it hypo, when you're in the depression.
Yeah, hypoarousal.
Hypoarousal. See, when I hear arousal, I think in the sexual realm, but that's really about,
baby. That's an arousal too, but we're not talking about that kind of arousal.
Right, because the word arousal, the word arousal just means what? Heightened sensitivity.
It is your emotions being activated. So whatever that
it just means activated. Okay.
Yes.
So you can be hypoactivated, which is a low level of activation or a depressed level of activation. So sometimes we're experiencing that and we don't know even how to deal with it. So I want to talk about this exercise that you did that I thought was so amazing and so telling. So I'm going to have you work with me to explain this, of course.
Okay.
So the way I saw you explain it is you had a circle with a client, you had client in there, but I'm going to say, for instance, our sisters. And this is a way for us to understand ourselves, for us to understand maybe our mates, to understand, for our children to understand us, or us to understand them. I mean, I think we can get a lot of understanding out of this exercise. And you called the exercise what again?
If you're talking about the triangle,
Yeah.
I call it the emotional triangle.
I think that's not the one I'm talking about.
Okay, you draw it, and then I know what it is.
Right. So what it is you talked about how you had a client who was acting out, and you had to help her reverse engineer why she was acting in this certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so you helped her pull out, well, what are your stressors, right? So sisters in our community, and even our brothers and children, we have trauma, we have stressors, right? So one example would be bills.
Absolutely.
All right. So you could do this exercise, I think, at home for yourself. It might even be helpful, right? So you have yourself here, and one of your main stressors, is bills. Okay. For whatever reason, your bills are too high, or you're not making enough money, whatever it is. And so as a result of your bills being in this state, then you have anxiety. But we don't know to name it anxiety.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then as a result of the anxiety, you act out. It might be emotional eating, or you get into hurtful relationships and things like that. So I've laid it out there, Dr. Shonna. Tell us more.
I love the way you did this, because it is associated with my emotional triangle. And I don't know if you saw that video too is entirety or not.
I'm not sure.
But if you did, at the end, I explained it in the triangle. So, and I'm not going to have you draw a triangle on the screen, although you are very talented. My gosh. I pay for all that stuff to get done. Don't have the creativity. But nonetheless, if you envision yourself a triangle, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say the bottom right angle of the triangle is where your emotions will lie. Mm-hmm. So that's where your anger would be, happiness, sadness, your moods, your feelings. Feelings could be when your heart is beating fast. Some of us, our heart starts palpitating when we're angry. Some of us, our palms might sweat. Our stomach might get knotty. We might get a headache, depending on what's going on with us emotionally. So on that bottom right-hand corner of the triangle, that will be where your emotions and your feelings are all associated. Moving on to the left, are you following me?
Yeah, I'm following you.
Okay. Moving on to the left bottom corner of that triangle, that's where your thoughts would be, your words, your cognition, where you start to make sense of it, where you move from the right side of your brain, which is believed to house primarily, not all, but primarily your emotions, your creativity, all that stuff is primarily on the right side of your brain. Mm-hmm. When you want to move over to your left side of your brain, that's where your analytical skills come in. So that's where your language would be at. Your words, your thoughts, all of that stuff would be on the left side of your brain, right? Mm-hmm. And then the top tip, the top angle of the triangle is where your actions would be. Your actions, where you act out, whether it is emotionally eating, whether it's hurting somebody, cussing somebody out, flipping out, having sex, spending too much money, regardless of what it is, or it might just be doing nothing, because that's appropriate too at times, right? Mm-hmm. So what tends to happen is, in an ideal world, when someone is able to manage their emotions effectively, they should go from the right bottom of the triangle, where your emotions, your moods, your feelings are, to the left bottom of the triangle for step 2, where you start to think about it, you start to give it thought, you start to give it words, you start to process what you are feeling and what you are going through. And once you do that, you can make a rational and logical decision for your action, which is your behavior.
Okay, so I'm showing it on the screen, right?
You are dope. Oh my goodness, I'm about to hire you.
But this is the thing, like, I want us in the community to understand that these things are loaded. In other words, these things that we're going through are not as simple as I need to smoke a blunt. You know what I'm saying? The thing that we're going through is not as simple as I need to go buy some red bottom shoes, or I need a new relationship. You see,
Yes,
a lot of times we don't recognize that, first of all, we need to start with us. We need to start with ourselves, you know.
yes,
And I often talk about, you know, I've been married for 14, 15 years. I know you're married with children. And I think we all, if we have successful marriages, we have had to go to that place to say, I need to start with me. Forget what he's doing.
absolutely,
Forget what the kids are doing. I need to start with me for a minute. And sometimes we don't know where to start. Like, I'm
absolutely.
emotional eating. I don't know why. I'm binging on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't know why. I wasted 8 hours watching Real Housewives of Atlanta.
And I'm going to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you why. While you're doing this drawing, I need you to do 2 more things. Well, it might be 3 more things, but let's break it up in 2 parts. From the emotions to the thoughts and words, I need you to draw a line there, and maybe that line you can number it number 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's the first step you want to go. You want to move from your emotions to your thoughts so you can make sense of what is going on with you. So you can make sense with what you're feeling. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's important. After you draw that line, I want you to draw another line from your thoughts up to your actions. And that'll be the step 3. So it goes 1, 2, 3. 1 is emotion, 2 are thoughts, 3 is action. That's the order I want us to go into. But here's what happens. We don't go into that order. We go from 1 to 3, from emotion to action.
Wow.
And that's called acting out. And I always tell the people who come to my office to work with me, when I say, think of us as humans. What age population of people go from 1 to 3, acting out behavior? Who do we see that in?
Children.
Children. Especially what age?
Babies.
Be more specific. It's not a test.
Toddlers.
There you go. There you go. Remember terrible 2s, right? Terrible 3s. They don't have the words or the thoughts to say. They don't have the words to say, you know what, I'm feeling hurt right now. They can't say that hurt my feelings. They can't rationalize. They can't say, Mom, if you give me 10 minutes, I'll be ready to go to bed. I just want to finish this real quick. They don't have that ability to do that. So when we lack the ability to put words and thoughts to what we're feeling.
Listen, look, I absolutely love this, Shonna. Like I'm glad that we went to the triangle. You took me that extra step because, so let's just recount what you're saying here. So you're saying you have an emotion. So whatever it is, you might have an elderly parent that you are responsible for care for. And as a result, you have the emotion of sadness, maybe loneliness, maybe feeling overwhelmed. Now, what you don't want to do is follow the red arrow, which I hope you can see. You go from this emotion of feeling depressed, overwhelmed, what do you call it? Insufficient, like being unable to actually get the right result.
Absolutely.
You might feel like you're failing. You might be sad because your elderly parent may be facing death. So instead of going from that emotion to an action of emotional eating,
stressing, shutting down,
right?
Under-eating, overeating.
Right.
Abusing
drugs.
Abusing people.
Yes, yelling at your children.
Yelling at your grandma, your sick mama.
All right, so now we're gonna move this to a solution place, right? Because see, these are simple. This is one simple exercise that you can do to bring clarity to your life. And at the Nubian Essence Luxury Retreat, we are going to do exercises like this because we want to bring you through your trauma, but not, it's not going to happen just in 3 days, but you can begin to bring some clarity and start to understand where you need to go and what you need to do, and maybe have resources to get more help. And also, I want you all to remember, hold on one second, because I need to make this clear. Those who register for because this is not a game, you know what I'm saying? Like the retreat and all of that, this is answering a real need. All right. So it's for women who want to move the needle in their business and in their lifestyle and all of that. A lot of times you have to start from the inside out.
Absolutely.
I've had to do all of these things to help me accomplish some of the things that I feel good about in my personal life. Not that you want to be me, but I'm saying you want to feel good about where you are. That's why with this, the way we're setting this up, there's going to be pre-activities. As soon as you register for the retreat, we're going to put you in this program. It's really like an extended coaching program. You start off, once you register, we give you some things to begin thinking about, assessing, analyzing. You come to the 3-day retreat, and then you have what I call is the afterglow. You have continued support to help you move through this journey, So I say it's not an event, it's an experience.
Yes.
So we're going to go into moving this to a solution, right? So say, for instance, you had that experience with the elderly parent or whatever. And so instead of going from emotions to actions, you went to put words and thoughts around that. Is that where something like journaling would come in, meditation?
It can. Prayer can be that.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling can be that. Talking to a friend who's non-judgmental, who supports you no matter what, and just venting about that and helping them put meaning to your thoughts and your words.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is. That's about taking a pause, about taking a time out before you act out.
Right. Okay. So you take these thoughts and these words, you put a name to all of these emotions. And before we get to actions, I love something you said. Don't get mad, get strategic. Right.
Absolutely.
So is that what we're doing when we break down these thoughts and we break down them into what you said are symbols, which are words to symbolize what is going on within us, and I guess why we're having these emotions? Then we can move to action, which is a form of strategy, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You're hitting the nail right on the head.
Okay, wonderful.
In my practice, I always take an Afrocentric approach when I work with my people, because we need that. We definitely need to see things through a different lens and a different perspective. I try not to pathologize everything. I try not to give everything a sickness. We may talk about different disorders. We may talk about different treatment methods. We may talk about that stuff, but it's less about that, and it's more with getting people to a solution-oriented focus. And what I've learned about our people through all of my studies, and I love the way you just call me doctor, because May 2018, that's what I'll be. But I love when I talk about my people and all the research that I've done, many of us, not all, but many of us haven't learned problem-solving skills. We haven't learned problem-solving skills. And we need to get there. And the lack of that ability to solve conflict and to solve problems, it affects us in all types of relationships. Not just intimate relationships, parent-child relationships, sister-brother relationships, work relationships, friendships, you name it, it affects us. So the reason why we want to get strategic and not get mad is because there's always a solution. There's always an answer if we sit back down and we think about it before we choose to act out.
Right. And so basically, just to kind of put it all in context again for a second as we go back into our diagrams, for those who are really serious about this work, okay?
Awesome.
Today, we have so many people telling us what type of attitude to take on. We live in a social media era where we just get on here and we vent on here. We get hyper aroused
all the time, right? I'm not responding to that thread. They're going crazy.
Right. Or like under my videos, Shaquita is a blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? I like you, Shaquita, but you are really this and that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to need you to take your emotions and analyze them.
Sit down and ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? Put thoughts and words to what you're feeling.
Yes, and then we're wondering, why can't we think of how to start up our business? Why can't we get into a productive and healthy relationship? Why can't we, grow our business? This stuff is inside out, people. I want to say this is my saying that I keep in this series saying, your health is your wealth. I'm not talking about just your physical health. We talked about the
Girl,
physical.
you got me rocking like my grandma now. You hearing it?
You rock like grandma. I know that's right. Listen, because that's one of those things, because we want to go for money over everything. We see the people on TV, oh, they got that paper, oh, they're living that life, oh, they have that skin, oh, they have that hair, whatever. But you do not understand that this stuff comes from the inside. Your health, your psychological, your mental, your ethical, your intellectual. I'm trying to say intellectual, sounding crazy. Okay, intellectual health. You know, all of that emanates into how do you start your business. You have to be emotionally present to have a business functioning at a high level. Okay, because when you get out here in the business world, you're in a jungle.
That's right.
You're not in a zoo anymore, and they're not bringing the food to your cage. You got to go out there and kill it to eat it. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have a different mindset, and you need to be able to process through the emotions, especially as women. I'm not leaving out my men, because you know I love my Black men, and they have emotions too. But as women, we have hormones, we have PMS, we have just a lot of things pulling at us. And, you know, again, it's a women's retreat. So I am talking to women and addressing us as those that comforter, that caretaker in our communities. So we have a lot of emotions, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. When you see multiple people being killed on camera, and the people who murdered them being acquitted and put back in authority positions where they could kill again, that causes an emotion. It should. Maybe that's why, Dr. Shonna, tell me, maybe that's why we are not responding to oppression in a way that has caused us to get out of it, because we're not processing our actions in a way that's strategic.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny you say that, because when you was talking about what the television is doing with the stuff that we see on TV that says you have to be this way and have this much money and look this way and talk this way and act this way, we're hijacked. Our minds are hijacked. So when it gets to the issues that really, really matter, TV does an excellent job with countering it. Does that make sense? So as soon as somebody gets shot, you know, you're going to go back to your TV show. You're going to go back to Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to go back to Power,
mm-hmm.
Real Housewives, Married to Medicine. You're going to go back to those things. It's going to take your mind off of it. Our minds are hijacked.
Well, I think it's unfair that you mentioned Power, because I watched that and I don't think, no, just play. I'm just joking.
Well, you know what? That's my guilty pleasure, because
no, you know, when you hit those certain buttons,
that is when I say ghost.
Look, I was with you when you said Empire. I was with you when you said, but when you hit my personal one, you know what I'm saying? That's how we can be in the community. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. A lot of times we're fine with you talking about, oh, I'm a Rosa, but we talking about your personal attitude and how you treat your kids. You know, we're talking about how you are still single because the way you treat Black men and the attitude that you have about Black men. Yes, we have all faced oppression, and yes, Black men and Black women have obviously both made mistakes. That's why we're still in this situation. If you're talking about, you know, the result or the intended action being overcoming, we're not there yet. So there's blame to be had on all sides. But don't just emotionally say, well, we're in this situation. I feel this way. I feel that way, like the Black feminist movement. So I'm going to blame you. I'm going straight from, I'm moving away from analyzing, being strategic, and I'm just going to be mad and go straight to you and point the finger at Black men or Black women, or, you know, whatever it is. But we, again, are not being strategic. So let's look back at this, because we're going to wrap it up. Because, I mean, I love doing this, because I feel like analyzing, and I guess as an engineer, as a technologist and a network engineer, we never think that there's a problem that can't be solved. What we do is we say, this is what the problem is. And we will get in a room, a team of engineers, and we will break it down, and we will come up with solutions. You know, and I feel like in our community, we just feel like, okay, we're just subject to, well, I'm just poor, or I'm just ugly, or I'm just infertile.
I love that you said that, because what I do when I tell you to take that I take an Afrocentric approach, what I do is just socially re-engineer our people.
Mm-hmm.
Socially re-engineer them. And what do engineers do? They sit down, they figure out, they draw lines, they draw sticks, they erase, and they write something else in, and they break it down in parts that are understandable. But many of us are not breaking things down in parts that are understandable. We are reacting. We see something we don't like, or like you said, something that's personal to us. We're fine when you're talking about everybody else. But the minute you say you shouldn't beat your kids, ain't nothing wrong with my kids, ain't nothing wrong with me. Well, you're reacting. Look at how you're reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's really think about it for a second. Really, like, break it down. This is not about a right or wrong. This is about breaking it totally down and understanding why you do what you do. And if you can break down why you do what you do and be okay with it without acting out, then cool.
And this is the go ahead, finish.
I like that you have this here, because in our system, say for example, we remove bills and we put it to children as a stressor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to know that the first circle actually represents your stressor,
mm-hmm.
right? So we change it from bills and we put it to children.
Mm-hmm.
That's your first stressor. So if your children are stressing you out, what emotion is tied with it? For some of us, it might be anger. Our children make us angry because they're not listening, or they're failing school, or they're smoking weed, or they're having sex, or they're doing inappropriate things, whatever the case is. So if our children are a stressor and we're angry, what is our acting out behavior? Is it physical? Do we physically discipline them? Do we kick them out? Do we become unloving? Do we yell and scream? Always find ourselves screaming and yelling. See, once you understand what your stressor is and your emotion in response to it, then you can make sense of your behavior.
Okay, so let's say this then. I want to revise this because again, we're gonna get to the solution, but I want to, like you said, let's explore other stressors, right? So, and so that again, you could do this at home right now and think of what would think about reverse engineering your emotions in your situation, just as a simple exercise. I don't know if it's quite simple because you could go deep, but you could start off simple with it. And
it can get really deep. We can even talk about promiscuous behavior. Understanding that.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets really deep, and I'm glad you brought this up, because this is how I started that video when I was explaining emotional triggers, right?
Right.
That's the path to emotional triggers right there. But you can't get to a solution without understanding.
All right, so I'm gonna go through this. We're gonna look at it from that perspective for a minute. All right. So give me 1 second to bring it up one more time. Because we're going to go deep with this thing. We're going to give the family what they're needing, okay? Mm-hmm. For those who want it. Because some people, they like, look, I am smoking a blunt right now. I'm good. So like you said, this blue circle represents a stressor, okay? So I don't even know I think sometimes even for me, I don't know exactly what's stressing me out. So that's where it kind of goes to journaling, right?
Yeah.
You can see my screen still, can't you?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's where it goes to journaling and meditations, and people use things like yoga and things, because you're letting life come at you just a million miles an hour. You have to be responsible to say, I need to take a break and decompress. I need to debrief. I need to get with myself and understand what's going on with me. All right. So this, you said, a stressor could be children. And I also put work, because there's people who it could be your boss at work, not getting a promotion. It could be wanting to have a business, but you're stuck in a job, But let's go back to children. So you are, a stressor is your children, because maybe your children, can you kind of talk about what you see in your practice relating to children being a stressor?
It depends on the age we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when they're the younger ones, and especially if they're coming from not necessarily a single woman household that, you know, a single woman has children. I don't like the use of the word single mother. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
a nasty narrative. But if you're a single woman and you have children and they're younger children and the father is not involved in that child's life or as involved in that child's life, that child's stressor could be financial. It
Mm-hmm.
could be lack of support. So you don't have free time. You don't have leisure time. It could be traveling, having to get the child to their destination in time so that you can get to work on time. It could be childcare. Your job is a certain time, but they have to be picked up. It could be all of that, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to identify what emotion is associated with that portion of your stressor when it comes to your child. That emotion could be anger. It could be hopelessness. It could be depression. It could be frustration. Every emotion is likely to trigger a different type of behavior.
Okay, I want to share even just a personal example because again, sometimes we like, well, you know, me and my children, we're good, you know, but for me, because I'm married and I never had a time where I didn't have my husband's support with my children. But one thing that was a stressor for me was my children was school, public school, because, you know, I homeschool my children. All right. And I know you've been through similar things. I think seen some videos. So there was my child, and I was beginning to be less confused about racism, white supremacy. And I had some fears related to my children being in the hands of people who I suspected of being racist. So my son, he came home with a test that he got 100% on. And he was so excited. Mommy, I had this test. This test was on I can't remember. One of the questions was, when was Harriet Tubman not brave? And it said,
Not what?
not brave.
Mm-hmm.
When was Harriet Tubman
Never.
not brave, right? That's an accusation in and of itself, that mind. So they said when she escaped from slavery herself, this is first grade exam. When she escaped from slavery, when she helped others escape from slavery, or C, when she hit her master in the head with an iron. The correct answer was supposed to be C, okay? And my son got it right. And he was happy about that. And that brought on so many emotions. It was anger, it was fear in a way. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm thinking that they're psychologically molesting my child. And do they have the right to do this? What can I possibly do? All of that just rushed in on me. And all I could do, I had to just like, baby, hold on 1 second. And I had to go to a private place and I just bust out crying.
And that's okay.
Right. And so I had all of those things that we just talked about as a stressor. Now, this is something that people don't really kind of recognize sometimes. We commonly think, well, our children are being disobedient or whatever. This is the stressor. And that leads to the anger. But see, in that situation, I had that. Now, I could have went up to that school, okay, and started yelling and fighting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I could have literally gone up to that school and started yelling and fighting. All right. That was what I wanted to do. My emotions were taking me to that action. And I mean, quite literally, I'm not playing. All right. And so then, but I had to analyze, you know what? You are feeling helpless right now, but you're not helpless. You have a way of schooling your children yourself, and you're going to figure out how to do it. And I took action, and I took my kids out of school. That was 3 years ago now. That was the best decision that I have ever made in my entire life, probably besides like marrying my husband. I mean, like, it's way up there, you know, and that's a great example. As we have these situations every single day, and if we would just learn how to, there's so many things to learn, right? But this is one way for you to just really decompress and start to feel like you have some control over your life.
Absolutely. And this works even in relationships.
Mm-hmm. Give
you
us an
know?
example, Dr. Shonna, and we're going to wrap up. We love this. Look, we want to help our sisters, right?
Yes, we do, because we got to heal as a community. I'm a healer. Let's
Uh-huh.
heal, baby. Let's heal for real. Not
Right,
fluffy stuff. People
right.
like fluff. Let's get
Mm-hmm.
to the core. Let's cry. Let's be angry. Let's get it out so
Mm-hmm.
we can heal.
Okay, so Dr. Shonna, so you were saying this happens in relationships. So let's see how, if we take the green route, what are some things that we do to reverse engineer, or what are some actions that we take that bring resolution as opposed to going from emotion straight to actions?
Okay, so like for example, you want me to talk about relationships, right?
You can. Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeling angry
Mm-hmm.
at your husband,
Woo-hoo.
and you go over to the thoughts and the words as opposed to angry, let me call this so-and-so and tell this so-and-so how. That's from emotions to action when you just pick up the phone. Oh, okay, really? Oh, so he ain't home, it's 9 o'clock? Let me call him right there. And instead of figuring out what's going on, you immediately attack, right? That's from emotions to action. But ideally, what we want to do is, he's not home. Let's just use as an example. He's not home. You're angry. You're hurt. You're afraid. You have to make sense of these emotions. What are you feeling? And when I say afraid, are you assuming he's stepping out? Is it bothering your security? Do you feel that you're not loved? What are some of these emotions you are experiencing? And then after you think about all those negative emotions that you're experiencing and all those negative thoughts, I want us to begin to think about the possibilities as well. He's stuck in traffic. He did try to call me, didn't reach me. Just think about all these type of things. Think about if he told me he was going somewhere else prior to leaving the house. Just try to imagine things that are not always the negative things. And after you figure that out, after you get all your thoughts, your words, your emotions, everything identified, think about what's going to be the step. Am I going to wait for him to come home? Am I going to call? Am I going to take a kinder approach? Am I going to send him a text message and say, hey, babe, I was just wondering where you're at. I'm a little worried about you. Just let me know you're safe. You know, because there's things that you can do when he comes home. You don't have to flip out on the phone, because whatever past experience you had with him is telling your brain, your amygdala, something is wrong. React, fight, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
have to learn how to control down these hyper aroused states that we find ourselves in, and make
Wow.
sense of it. And your life really does depend on it, because stress is a killer.
Yes. See, you just keep hitting so many things. And I know, and that's why you have a whole practice, and that's why you're getting a doctorate, and that's why you have so many licenses and you have so many team members, because this is a lot to deal with, and we do not understand that we must address it. We are suffering because we are not addressing things in an analytical and strategic way. Can't you see that even in this short video, we have tackled some major issues and given you what I think is a concrete method for bringing clarity and getting you much closer to resolution to your problem.
Absolutely.
Taking you out of a state of like a crippling state. But man, I want to wrap up, but I need to hit this issue about these relationships, because again, 15 years of marriage has not come through just roses and Valentine's Day gifts and all of that. And one thing that I realized in a lot of single women is, I think it's important for you to realize when you get into these relationships, like you said, when you're in a relationship with a man, oh my God, talk about arousal. I mean, wow, you have emotions coming, emotions are all over the place, right?
We act out too.
Yeah. And I tell you, I went through that phase of, okay, why am I feeling like this about my husband? Do I feel like he's gonna leave me? Do I feel like he's not hearing me, or he doesn't love me or care about me? So, when I analyze stuff like that, I had to say to myself, okay, Shaquita, let's be rational. What if he did leave? I mean, are you gonna be okay? You know what I'm saying? Not to say that you want him to leave, or not to say that you it's even true that he would leave. But fear is what? False evidence appearing real.
Absolutely.
So, you know, this might be false, but just worst case scenario, if it was to happen, are you going to be okay? You know what I'm saying? You can live through this. And a lot of times that calms you down to say, okay, now I can process a good reaction. Because if your emotion is, I have so much fear that this person's going to leave, or I have fear this person doesn't love me, if you can get back down off of that emotion, then you can start to think straight. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I had to learn how to process like emotions. Like I would think like certain actions that my husband did meant that he didn't love me. And then I had to think, well, okay, think about it, Shaquita. Your husband worked hard every day. He provided a beautiful place for you to live. He's active in your kid's life. Why are you letting some action of him, I don't know, not taking you out because he's tired from work, make you feel like he doesn't love you? Okay, so now what action do you take? You take the action of going and be grateful. So the emotion that would have led me to cussing him out now is an emotion that is leading me to go to him in love and actually be grateful. And that's changing our reality.
And I'm glad that you were able to do that, Shaquita, because some women are not able to do that. Some women are married to men who are hypo-aroused. They're more in a depressed state, or they withdraw a lot from their relationships, or they shut down, which is what we call stonewalling, but other people might say the silent treatment. They tend to shut down. And when that happens, those people are usually married to someone who's more like the hyper aroused person, right? So the more she gets anxious or hyper aroused about him not talking, and she wants to know, babe, what's wrong? Talk to me, what's going on? Oh, so you just gonna do me like that? You're just gonna call. The more she gets in that state, the more he withdraws, the more he goes into his shell.
But that was us. My relationship was like that because my husband is very much like that. Like he is the type of person, and again, I was reading it wrong because when he was so-called what you think is stonewall, and he would, to me, it was like, well, he doesn't care that I'm upset. That's what it was saying to me. But in reality, it was him saying, I'm taking control of my emotions and I'm not going to react right now because we're both in a heightened state right now. We're saying things and we're doing things. Let's just take a step back. And he helped me learn, listen, maybe you just need to shut up. You know what I'm saying?
You have that opportunity. Mm-hmm. There are some people who are married to people, whether it's the wife or the husband, mm-hmm. who is not aware of their emotions. And sometimes some men don't even know that they're shutting down. They don't even know that they're stonewalling. Mm-hmm. They're just going into this self-protection mode. The best way for me to describe that is like the lion and the turtle. That's something that we use a lot in model therapy. When we talk about the lion and the turtle, the lion, when the lion is hurt, the lion is roaring and pouncing and angry. And the turtle, although the turtle wants to interact with the lion, what does the turtle do? Go into the shell and close up. And once that turtle goes into the shell, the lion's feelings get hurt even more. And that lion starts roaring even more. My goal as a couples therapist is to help that lion learn how to bring his emotions down to a window of tolerance and then allow the turtle to be able to come out of his shell to trust that he's not going to get hurt. So all of that requires us to really tap into our emotions and tap into our thoughts so we can understand, because our thoughts and emotions must line up together for harmony to happen.
Listen, everything that you just described, put 2-3 kids in that.
Oh, baby. We ain't got enough time for that.
I know, we don't have enough
charging for that.
We don't have enough time. And that's the thing, you know, we're talking about this because what ultimately is the effect? Our future, meaning the generations, the next generations. You know, the children that we're not addressing because we are too busy being a lion and a turtle. And the children, I don't know what you call them, the fish out of water. They're sitting up there flapping and flailing, can't breathe. And we like.
They are the students.
The students, wow.
We are teaching our children how to engage in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
They're the students.
And that's why, and you know, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to go back through a couple of things right quick. Listen, you go from, you don't go that red line today, people. All right. You watching this, you have an emotion. Don't go to the red line, even if it's the keyboard on your computer.
Or the texting on your phone.
Or the email you're about to send to one of your
Facebook inbox. Or the IG DM.
I wish I could just erase this line right now. You better not do it, okay? You go from emotions to your thought, looking at your thoughts and your words, and then coming up with a strategy to take the appropriate action, okay?
But Shaquita, people have to be careful with how they manage their thoughts as well, because there's a such thing called rumination. And rumination is when we get stuck on negative thought patterns. So they're not able to have a balance. They're not able to see positive and negative thoughts.
Yeah,
that makes sense of it. Some people are just
you're not taking me there to a whole other topic. We're gonna have to do another video. We're gonna have to do another video another time, and you're gonna have to come to the retreat. And hold on one second.
I told you don't get me into serious mode because I'm serious about my craft.
I know it. I see it. I see it in your videos, and I know you can go there. And that's what I'm saying. We need time with women like you that can really take it there, you know? And here's the thing. Transforming pain into possibility. Don't be sitting, I ain't got no pain. I ain't thinking about him. I ain't thinking about it. No, you get the book, transform your pain into possibility, take a practical approach. All right. And when you say real talk, now this is real talk. You don't even know what real talk is until you get out a whiteboard and start diagramming some stuff.
Absolutely. That's real, honest, transparent, authentic talk.
All right. And then listen, if you are somebody who really wants to take it to the next level in your life, okay, you want to refresh, reset, renew, you want to get in here and do the work. You want coaching, you want accountability, you want to be with your sisters, all right? Because even with Dr. Shonna, tell me especially if you live outside of Atlanta, can you find a Black psychologist, a team of Black psychologists? Like
you can. I mean,
I've searched and I have never found.
You searched psychology today?
No, I have a relative in the Ohio area, and I scoured that entire area, could not find a Black psychologist. So,
and did you go through psychology today?
I did not, but you know, I know how to use. I'm mean on Google now, but I could have skipped it. But so that just shows you how hard it is to find.
I mean, it is hard to find. You know, we are rare diamonds, and then when you do find us. Many of us, this is my full time, this is my life, this is what I do. I'm not an employee at any facility or organization. So this is what I do. But oftentimes you will find a Black psychologist or a Black clinical social worker or what have you, and it's part-time. So they only have certain hours because they work somewhere else, or they don't take insurance, or there's so many nuances.
Or they're not Afrocentric, which is a big problem.
But you're not gonna find many of those.
I know you're not. You can't nobody convince me otherwise. And then
find the emotional emancipation circles.
Say that again.
Emotional emancipation circles.
What is that?
Look it up.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
Afrocentric.
And meanwhile, while we're trying to figure out where we can find help in our area, you can go to NubianEssenceLuxuryRetreat.com. Sign up on there, put in your email, and, you know, follow directives on that site or whatnot so that you can be the first to get information. Number one, on some online seminars we're going to continue to do about this thing, as well as come and get one-on-one or small group assistance with these types of issues, okay? Dr. Shonna, how do you want to wrap us up, dear?
Listen, I enjoyed our conversation. I love teaching people. As you can see, I am very passionate about what I do. I'm very committed and passionate to transforming the pain of our communities into possibility and into profit when it comes to business. So I want to thank you so much for having me on here. Oftentimes, I don't get anyone asking me about the clinical aspects of our work, and I can go really deep from the brain. I can go really deep. So I really want to thank you for that opportunity and that platform to be able to do it, because most people who come to me, they come to me because they want to know business related things, because I'm a beast when it comes to business. Hey, I'm an Aquarius. What can you
I can believe it.
But when it comes to clinical work, this is my passion. And I just steer away from talking about it, not to fall into any confidentiality issues. But I really do thank you for bringing that out of me so you can see exactly who I am and how I get when I work.
Absolutely. I loved it too. And I really wanted to present the genius that you possess to our community so that they can know that these are avenues of help for them. You don't have to be hopeless. You don't have to be sitting there feeling like, number one, that nobody cares.
Absolutely.
Right? Because sometimes as women, we're like, well, who's going to care for the Black woman? The Black man don't care. The children. Listen, it's people who love you out here. It's people who God is invoking a lot of passion and a lot of energy to come up with solutions for you. Okay.
Absolutely.
And that is what I want, our people to know, period. And someone like you that, like I said, is really bringing a lot of genius to the table that you want to use to help your brothers and your sisters, that you want to use to help your community. I want us to delve into what you have to offer. So I'm so glad that you did this interview with me, and I hope that we can do some more. And I hope you're gonna be at the retreat. I'm still talking to her, guys. Send her, get in her inbox. All right.
They can follow me on Facebook. They can just go to at Dr. Shonna, DrShonna, and just like and follow the page and engage with me, and I talk back.
All right, absolutely. Well, I love you. I think we love you. And I want to see you guys in the next video.